Hey, good evening, everybody. If this is your first time tuning in, if you would please hit the like and subscribe to our channel. We'd greatly appreciate it. Here we do a little bit of everything from uh, CB radios to power supplies, amplifiers. This is a custom-made power supply. So this one is using the DPS 1200 SBA. This one was recently ordered from by a customer for a 300 amp. Because of the fact that I usually try to overbuild everything, it's actually got 4 modules in there. That way we know that it can hold a sustained 300 amp load for his needs. So, all right, let's see if I can get this zoomed out a little bit so I can get the other meter in there. All right. And let's turn it on. Hey, good evening, Three Maid. Actually, before I turn it on, because of all the fans and everything, let's take a quick look inside. I finished this up just a little bit ago. I do have the wire off here for the fan. That way we can plug and unplug it. So we'll do a quick look through here. Yes, it does look like a huge empty box. It is much taller than what I normally would build, but the guy had a specific size that he needed to fit his location. So the way this is set up, if he decides to, we can easily put 2 more modules in here at a later date and mount them in. It is held by screws up here in the front, down at the bottom, and then we've got a mounting bar here up front. Seems to be that is one of the easiest ways to do it. I did put small felt pads up underneath here just to make sure that there's no rattle. Now I also, if you'll notice, that I left just a small little gap here, and the reason why is so that we can go ahead and radiate some heat. As heat is getting radiated up, the fan's going to actually push through the center here, but also we're going to get a little bit of an airflow in between here as well. So wanted to do that. We've got 220 breaker up here towards the front. So if we can get this camera turned around. So 220 breaker, 500 amp meter. So we've got all of our cables here taken care of, and then towards the back, everything's all nice and neat. Alrighty, so let's do a quick load test. I'll turn this camera back around the other way. I've only got so much cord here on the camera itself, so please bear with me. We are slowly changing things around as far as on the camera and what have you. So anyhow, so we've got this set at 14.5. Let's see if we can't get this in here. I'm probably going to have to replace this because I've used this for several years. About 5 years ago, I put a fan on the back of it to help actually make this last a little bit longer, which it has. But the old carbon pile is getting wore down pretty bad. So I'll have to be looking into replacing that here in the very near future. Anyways, let's go on here with our test. So bring this up a little slow here real quick. There's around 50, 60, 60. Still holding as it's climbing. Okay, give that just a little bit of a break. Alrighty, let's go ahead and crank it up here to 250. Showing good. 140 amps, and we dropped from 14.5 down to 14.3. So not a lot of drop. All right, so let's give her a big old crank. There's 350 as quick as I can make it go. $390. And these cables are getting hot. All right. So our power supply, where I've ran this quite a bit, it's kind of kicked in medium speed, and that has to do for two reasons. Number one, because I moved the thermistor closer to the center of it, where it generates the most heat. So the fans are kind of on a medium speed right now. They will kick into a hyperactive mode once they get really good and hot. They'll kick way up and go ahead and start cooling themselves down. Meanwhile, we do have a fan that is going to be on top. It's going to be circulating some air as well, so it'll be a lot faster cool down. But anyways, guys, like I said, just wanted to kind of do that. Man, you can smell that. Let's see if we can run that up here again real quick. Let's see if we can get those fans to kick into that psycho mode or whatever you want to call it, man. Little carbon pile just don't want to take it. May even start seeing a little bit of smoke coming off the clamps here in just a minute. Okay. So you can tell that those are definitely running a little bit higher in speed. I'll get my microphone up here a little closer, as you can tell. Yeah, sitting on something that's not quite flat. But yeah, like I said, the fans are going to start kicking up higher and higher until they go into full speed mode. Once you actually run them really good and hot. Physically, they're actually not that hot. Let's see if we can get the flare meter out here. We'll take a. I can reach around all this stuff. Let's turn the flare up against the back wall. You can see where most of the heat's being generated here. We've got our shunt already at about 100 degrees. Same thing here, you know, where everything's being pulled through. And the unit, oh, I thought I had it on camera. Sorry, guys. Hello, Greg. So anyways, yeah, so our shunt, about 120 degrees at the hottest. About 135-ish on the positive. You also have to remember it doesn't have the big bulk like the negative does, where we've got the shunt on it. We go down here onto the power supplies. See if we can knock some of that glare off. You see a little bit of the heat reflecting there off the bottom. So a little bit of heat in between there, and that's the reason why we want to make sure we've got a little extra room in between those. Like I said, I don't have these stacked just as tight as I can get them, so that I can create a little bit of an airflow in between there. Doesn't need to be much. You know, I've only got maybe 3/16 that I allowed on these, mainly because of the fact that I wanted to keep a certain dimension. But alrighty, guys. And then the main AC cord. Went ahead and took a play out of a friend of mine's book here that he used to do this on several different amps over the years and power supplies, which is Mr. 3-Made. He actually got me started in on using some of the different wire looms. So I actually got some that I made up small coax jumpers and things like that for the workbench with the RG316. So I just went ahead and kind of put that on there just for more for show than anything else. But alrighty, guys, let's get back up here. I haven't even swept the floor yet, so we don't need to see the floor. Let's shut that noisy fan off on this. So what I should have done was took a clear reading of this crazy thing when it was still hot. Jeez. He came over on the Mayflower. Yeah, this one's not too far behind you. You know, mine's the Johnny Come Lately where, you know, it's on the boat that's behind the Mayflower. No, they're all wired together. Three. They're actually set up for load sharing. Well, hello, Tom. It's been a while since I've caught you in there on a live feed as well. Good to see you in there. Like I said, we just went ahead and wanted to finish up the power supply here and do a quick video on it. And actually, we got out here before 8 o'clock for a change. Of course, I've been out here since 5 o'clock, and I've been playing around and finishing up the last of this, answering about 5 different messages from people back and forth. So, just trying to, like I said, get the last of the last finished up here on this before I go into the next. So, yep, I've got this one done. I do have another power supply, but it's going to be several weeks away yet that I'm going to get try and get finished up. And then I've got a base radio to do that I actually got sold. So I'm going to try to get the Cobra 2000, try to get it on the workbench, try to get to it by the end of next week sometime. Of course, we've got some amplifiers that are also coming in this weekend. The guy's coming over. He scheduled an appointment, so he's actually going to be physically here. We're going to go through and do some retuning on his amplifiers. I don't know if we're going to do a live feed on that or not. Kind of just depends on what all he wants done as to what we wind up doing with it. But anyhow, I appreciate it, guys. I'm going to go ahead and finish up this, get the top back on it. I know his biggest thing was he was concerned this was going to make a lot of noise as far as for just everyday running while it's on standby. And that's just not going to be the case. So once this thing's cooled down, like I said, it's not going to make a whole lot of noise. The only time it's going to make noise, or a lot of it, is just simply these things off of here. And look how hot I've got these things over the last couple of years. I'm literally burning and scorching the copper on these. But yeah, when this one finally gives up the ghost, I'll probably sit down and buy one of the 1000 amp versions. Or whenever my rich uncle gets out of the poorhouse, I'll be able to go ahead and just purchase one right out of the gate, and then we can take that one. We can finally burn it down. Just watch it go up in flames. Speaking of which, and speaking of flames, one of the other things that I do want to mention, for those of you that do this every day, I'm going to throw you in there, 3Made and Chad. It's not very often. Now they do make a handheld fire extinguisher. That's great for the workbench, so you don't have to get out a really big, expensive one. These are about 14 or 15 bucks. They're ideal for electrical, trash, and grease. But if you wind up with one that you don't really need a big fire extinguisher for. Because I mean, there has been times where I've seen things that we've intentionally burnt down to the ground, but you don't want to catch the shop on fire. These are great. I got introduced to these about 3 or 4 years ago at work because of where we did so much welding. So this was actually something that we kept on us at all times on the toolbox for that. So I've had that one now going on 3 years out here in the shop, and thankfully I've never had to use it, but it's for that just in case. Yeah, I figured yours is probably about toast too on the on the little carbon pile. It's just, yeah, they get kind of expensive, so you try not to burn them up. But it's just a fact of life that those are going to be tore up. When you're a jack-o'-lantern. But yeah, like I said, those are really handy. I have used those at work, and they work very, very well. But again, you can knock a fire out without actually having to engulf an entire workbench. If you wind up with one of those type of fire world, oh, I was sitting on a coax. That's the reason why. So, yep. So the only thing that's left on this old girl. Go ahead and date this thing on the inside real quick. Then I'll put the badges on the back, and also I'm going to put another sticker on the top of this. Alrighty. Oh, and another thing too, that if you guys really want a really quiet, which was the other thing too, is now it's kind of cooled down a little bit, and we've got our fan in there. Like I said, you don't need much air movement, but you do, I do recommend some air movement, which I've got a quiet fan that I used for this one. But going back to the noise factor, one of the other things too that you can do if you're in a situation where you want something that runs quieter, they've got what they call hush mat or dynamat, and you can actually line the inside of these with that stuff, and that'll also help kind of absorb some of the noise. And so if you're looking for something that maybe will help reduce some of that. Come on, girl. Yeah, the bigger the box, the more you got to make sure you get all the screws started before you ever start tightening things down. These boxes are built with a very tight tolerance. So once you start putting some weight into it, it's going to kind of shift some stuff. Gotta get 2 more screws here. So remember, if you're building something out of one of these cabinets, make sure to start all your screws before you start tightening them up. more down, guys. 5 million to go. 40 miles an hour. Yes, I am left-handed. However, I also use my right hand quite a bit too. I'm actually ambidextrous in most cases. Well, Chad, if it's like me, it's windy all over when 3May's around. That's where all the wind comes from, you know. But anyways, I think for a 300 amp power supply, I think he's going to be perfectly fine. Like I said, you know, I put the extra module in there almost on every power supply, whether it's with the regular modules that we've been using. You know, I always try to go ahead and overbuild. So if it says 300 amps, usually you can stress it and go up to the 350. Because of the cost of the modules here, I'm able to just drop it in there. So, you know, you're more than adequate as far as about the 300 amps. But yeah, I've always tried to make sure that everything is overbuilt whenever they go out the door. So anyways, guys, I appreciate it. Rather out than in 3. Hot air. But anyhow, guys, I'll get this turned around, let you guys see what the back looks like. By the way, I did run this on 220, which is what it is set for. Since I've got it around here, nothing that's left for the back. It's our Made in America sticker. Nice today. Didn't even talk to 3. Label the heart and ground. Yeah. Well, I'm hoping because one's red and one's black, I'm hoping that should be substantially pointed out that which one's the positive and which one's the negative. I know that there are stickers that people sometimes put on here in order to go ahead and mark what's what. I did not do that, but you know, I've thought about that as far as in the past, as far as going ahead and having labels made up here that say, you know, positive, one says negative. But, at the same time, it should be self-explanatory. Like I said, whenever they're color-coded like that. Don't worry, Greg, I didn't get your text message either, if that helps you any. Alrighty, guys. Like I said, all that's left is for me to get the badging on the top of the box, and I'm going to call it a day on this one, and probably go in there and actually fix me some lunch before work. So I appreciate it, guys. Take care, and we will see you on the next live feed. Again, if this is your first time tuning in, please hit your like and subscribe. We greatly appreciate it. We'll see you on the next video.